Hello there, Samantha here, and today I'm going to share with you my 5 top secret tips for how I manage my inbox and stay on top of all the emails that are coming in. Now, these 5 things I have used for many years now in combination, and I really find that they help me just stay focused on what's important in my inbox, also cut through the noise and make sure I keep track of the things I need to follow up on and also the things I'm waiting for. So I can't wait any longer. Let's dive in now and take a look. Okay, so top secret tip number 1 is that I use labels that are for follow-up and waiting for. So you'll see them over here on the left. You'll notice they've got colors on them and you'll notice that they've got a symbol in front of the name. So dash follow-up, dash waiting for. Now I use the words follow-up and waiting for because they come from the getting things done methodology, which informs some of my practices in my inbox. But basically, as the name suggests, any email that requires follow-up gets a follow-up label on it. Any email that I'm waiting for a reply on that's important enough for me that I want to track it, not everything, I pop a waiting for label on. So I'll show you how to create these in a minute, but basically in terms of using them, when I want to pop an email in one of these, I usually just do a drag and drop like this. Super easy, so you can drag from the left onto the email. You could also open an email up and do it from here, right? Follow up, waiting for. And as you'll see, it really stands out in my inbox, which is why I like it. Now, in terms of creating these, so they are just like any other label in Gmail. Just come into the plus here to create it. As I said, I put a symbol at the start, and that's because then alphabetically symbols display at the top of the label list. So they're above A. So you could have any symbol you want. I use a dash because it's neat. You can use absolutely anything. So I'm just going to do another one as an example. So we'll just pop like an urgent one on here. You can use whatever keywords work for you. I just find follow up and waiting for are good for me. I don't nest it. I'm just going to leave it like that. We'll create it. You'll see it comes to the top, and then to pop the color on, I come over to the right-hand side here to the little drop down and choose a color. So the only labels I color in my inbox are those ones that I use as like these colored tags, just so that there's not like some big rainbow in my inbox with all the other stuff as well. Okay, so that was tip number 1. Now, top secret tip number 2 is combining these labels with Google's priority inbox feature. So I'm going to show you what this looks like for me, and then I'll show you how to set it up. So you'll notice at the top here, I've got the unread section, or my unread mail, except for this one, which hasn't popped down yet. And if I scroll down, you will see I then have sections for follow-up and for waiting for, which correspond with those labels. So basically how it works is any email that has the follow-up label that is red, has been marked as red, will show in this section. Anyone that has the waiting for label that's marked as red will show here. And then everything else that is been read, but it hasn't yet been labeled away or archived out of the inbox is down the bottom. So what I do day to day is I try and have everything else clear. I try and work through my unread, and I'll give you some tips for that in a minute. And then I try and use these follow up and waiting for labels as I'm going through my unread mail to indicate what I need to do. So usually when it's going through unread, it's things I need to follow up. So rather than marking things as unread again or using stars or anything like that, I drop on the label. So I kind of work through inbox 0 in terms of having 0 unread, but then I have this section here of follow-up emails, I should say, that I can then go back and work on. So it's kind of my blend of inbox 0, but having a very clear list of the things I need to go back to. So a couple of things with this. If you have archived an email or moved it off to a label, but it still has follow-up or waiting for on it, it will still show in these sections. So I love that too, because I can actually kind of get it out of my inbox technically, but it still shows back in my inbox because it's showing in this section. So how do we set this up? So first thing first, if you like it, make sure you've got those labels that you want to use ready to go. Then we come over into the settings, and it is the inbox style priority inbox, but I have customized it. So if you were to just go and put priority inbox on, it's not going to look like this, right? So pop it on, click customize, and it's going to bring you into here. Now what I'm just going to do is actually reset the configuration on it so you can see what it would normally look like in the config if you were doing this for the first time. So you'll see normally there's 4 sections, 1 is empty, so they typically use important and unread, starred, and everything else. Now, the sections I like to use, I just like unread at the top because I don't want Google telling me what's important. So I just use unread. Then instead of starred, I actually come in here to options go into more options, and I use follow-up, or whatever label you would want to use, you can do. If you do like to use stars, you could certainly have that there as well. Section 3, currently empty. I'm going to go in again to more options and pop on waiting for, and I always leave section 4 as everything else. That's it then, right? We just click Save Changes. Now, in my case, I can't because it's the same config I had before. But nonetheless, you would click Save Changes. It would take you back to your inbox and you're good to go. Now, one more final tip on this before we move on. Each section actually has a setting in terms of how many emails it can display. So if I come here to the little dots next to the section, I can again, configure what's in that section, but I can show up to 50 items. So this is particularly good for your unread. You might want to bump that up to 50, or your other sections here. If you ever want to see all of them, so like in my case, it says 1 to 10 of 17, I just need to click on that and I would then see all of them in one spot. But I do like to have that maximum 50 for each of mine. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, let's go on to tip number 3. So this one and tip number 4 actually are a little bit around how I quickly process my unread mail. So as I said, I like to work through my unread mail each day, or sometimes multiple times a day, and then I apply the labels. So to make that quicker, there's 2 settings I use. Let's go into the first one. So we're going to go into See All Settings, and we're going to go into Advanced, and the setting I use here is called Auto Advance. Basically what it does is it lets you go to the next email in your list of mail that you're working through without having to click and open it. So it like flies through them, and I'll do a demo of this in a minute. So this is off by default. I've enabled it. Once you've enabled it, you then go into the General section, and there is a setting that pops up for it. You'll see here Auto Advance. Now you don't see this unless the setting's been enabled. And you can choose what happens and how it advances. So let's just say I've got an email open. If I was to delete it, archive it, move it off to a label, any of these kind of actions, once I've done that, it's going to go to another email automatically, and it's like, which one do I want to go to? Do I want to go to the next newest one or the next oldest one? I like to go to the next newest one because I like to start when I'm working through my inbox with the older messages and work up to the top, because I figure the older ones probably need my attention. They've been hanging around. So these are the settings. Let's see how it works. So I'm going to go back to my unread. So let's start here. What's this, like 28th of Feb. So I'm going to open this one up and be like, okay, great. Don't really need to do anything with that. Archive. See how it's automatically gone to the next one from 1st of March. So watch these dates over here. I'm like, oh, cool. I might actually delete that one. Delete. Now it's gone to the 2nd of March. So it just keeps going up, 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 up. And it just helps you really fly through your inbox. If I was doing my prioritization with my labels, I might go, oh, cool, I want to label this one for follow-up. I want to archive it, next one. And then that one I've just labeled for follow-up, of course, will now be in my follow-up section down here, right? There it is. So this just really helps me get through that unread mail super quickly. So that sounds like we're now on to tip number 4. So let's dive into that. So back into our settings. Actually, no, before we go into settings, I'm going to show you it first. So let's open up an email. Let's open one of these that we're not going to reply to, but we're going to do it as a test. So if I have got an email open and I'm replying to it, you'll see here in my reply box, I have 2 send buttons. I have a send, and I have this one that if I hover over it says send plus archive. So this is like a huge time saver when you are replying to messages and you want to reply to them and get them out of your inbox. So if I was to say, thanks so much, and I'm not actually going to send this because it's probably to a no reply address, it is, but that's okay. I'm still going to write a nice reply. If I was to click that now and click send and archive, what's going to happen is it's going to send the message and it's going to remove or archive the message I'm replying to, this one, from my inbox. Now, if you're not quite sure what archive means, I will drop a link to another video I've got about archiving below this one so you can check it out. But essentially, it's going to get it out of your inbox. It will be down here in all mail. And if you've got a label on it, it will also be in that label. And I'll talk more how I do that in a minute. But yeah, I love send and archive because it just means I'm doing 2 actions, 1 click. So that means we are up to top tip number 5, which, as I promised, links to the one I just showed you. So the other thing I do that really helps me is I use filters to automatically label emails. Now, sometimes I use filters to keep emails out of my inbox, like newsletters and stuff like that. but I also use them to label emails that I want to see in my inbox, but make it easy to archive them later in the labels I want them to be in. So this will make a bit more sense in just a sec. So let's open an email. So let's say these updates, which I've got heaps of. If I wanted to create a filter for them, maybe I want to have a label called Google Workspace Updates, but I do actually like reading these genuinely, so I want to have them in my inbox. But I want to make it really easy to pop them down in there or have them permanently in their Google Workspace label when I'm done. So to create that filter, I'm going to come up here to the little dots and I'm going to filter messages like these. Now Google tries to be smart and goes, oh, I'll give you some criteria to filter on. I don't want to use this criteria. I'm going to take it out. And I've actually got the from address because it's this from address that's always what these updates use. So I'm super happy just to use that. So any email from this address, I want to apply a filter to. So I'm going to click create filter now. And typically when we do a filter, we can do a few things, right? We can skip the inbox, we can apply a label, mark it as read, all of that kind of stuff. All I want to do in this case is apply a label. So I think Google Tips, that sounds perfect. Let's apply that one. I want to apply the label Google Tips, but I don't want to skip the inbox because I want to still see it in my inbox, right? So we've popped that on there. Now, I'm going to be a little bit sneaky and I'm also going to apply this to filter to matching conversations, which means it's going to apply retrospectively to everything in my inbox. So let's create it and we'll see in a minute what's going to happen because it does take a little while to take effect. But actually while it's taking effect, I might just dive in and show you where to find the filter in case you want to update it later. So to do that, it's in settings, see all settings, and it will be in filters and blocked addresses. So I love that it took me away just as we were doing that. Let's go back. Talk about timing. There you go. So we can go in there, we can edit, and we can delete it. So now let's dive back to our inbox. You will see that all of those ones that are sitting here that are Google Workspace updates now have that label Google Tips. And what happens is every time I get a new one, it will come in and it will have that label automatically. So then, bringing it all together, when I'm working through my inbox and going, oh yeah, great, good to know that update, I can just click archive now and it's going to remove that inbox label. But because I've automatically popped on Google Tips, it's just going to be exactly where I want it. And I can literally fly through these. I'm going to do a few now. Look how quick it is. Super simple. Now I use these day to day for client emails, newsletters, receipts, like anything that I can predict that I want to see in my inbox, but I also have a label for, I create those filters for them. And that just means processing my mail in the morning is so much easier using that auto advance with the archive. And also when I'm sending and archiving as well. So if I get an email from a client or a vendor, it comes in, it's got their label on it, I reply to it, I click send and archive, it goes straight to them and the email's archived straight into the label I need it. So there you have it. As you can probably tell, I'm pretty excited about these 5 tips. They are genuinely what I have used for many years now, and I just swear by them day by day. So I hope that some or all of them are helpful for you. I would love to hear what you think, so feel free to drop me a comment below. And if this video was helpful, you can also give me a little like as well. So thanks so much for watching. See you next time.